You can actually start.
I can. Okay, thank you. Good evening, uh, Veronica and Mfude. I hope you're doing well. Are we? Mfude, how are you? Okay, so today we're going to talk about helping children heal, basically understanding trauma and building resilience. So first things first, I want us to imagine of different scenarios and like for example our first just the photo that we have the photo that is here on our first slide. That's a photo of a child being covered by an umbrella, and that umbrella that has been given unto him is it's been given by to him by an adult. Okay, so what exactly am I trying to let us picture in this sense? In that children really need some covering. They need a lot of covering for they need a lot of covering whenever they go through issues in life. They need to be protected and not down talked. Okay, children really need to understand that they are loved. They need to feel the love. They need to feel everything good about themselves. So we'll basically go to the next slide. Veronica, you'll take us through the next slide so that we can actually go through it. So you know the second one, not trauma changes the brain. That should be the third one. Because I'm also following up with mine. Okay, I'll go through the second slide. So trauma is not an event. Trauma is just but the impact. So when you're talking about trauma, what actually comes in our minds? Okay, trauma is an emotional response. Okay, it's a physiological and psychological response to experiences that are very very much horrible. I would say so to kids because they were unable to do what to actually come up with a solution at a particular point in time when they were facing through that challenge. And so, like an iceberg, technically, the behaviors we get to see on the surface that we'll definitely discuss, such as withdrawal and anxiety, they represent only but a fraction of what ties beneath pain, fear, confusion, and unmet needs. So, trauma actually has a great impact on children. And before anything else, we're supposed to understand that these kids need a lot of coverage. Okay, they need a lot of cushioning in the event they tend to express whatever horrifying or rather horrendous experiences they have had. So next of course to the next slide, I would talk about trauma, how it actually now gets to change the brain, because before they get children get to react the way they react, it must have affected their brain. So the different parts of the brain that I'll definitely be talking about, that is the prefrontal one, the thinking brain. Okay, so when they're thinking of when the kids are now traumatized, we are in the where we, you've gone ahead. You've gone ahead, but we'll actually follow up. So I'm still on trauma changes the brain. So when the prefrontal, rather that is the thinking part of the brain is actually affected, uh, the children get to go offline, like their minds get to go blank. Okay, they can't uh, they can't think or rather reason properly when stressed. Okay, so trauma affects their thinking capacity. Instead, just accumulates stress and blocks logic and also learning. The other aspect also is now the brainstorm, that is the survival brain. So how does actually trauma affect the survival brain? You tend to realize children who've undergone trauma, they tend to fight back their fears. Okay, they tend to fight back in the event they get to feel that spaces are actually unsafe for them. They fight or fly away, like literally run away from such certain situations. And also that those who actually just freeze, uh, they actually freeze because they are not able to escape. They feel like the brain gets to a point of no, this thing has ever happened, yes. And I don't think running away is the best solution. The other time it was through freezing, and that is how it will actually have to happen again. And also, basically, now the emotional aspect, the emotional brain, that is now the limbic system. It now drives hypervigilance and fear-based reactions. Of course, we still bring out the aspect of flight and freeze. Okay, and so children actually in survival mode cannot access reasoning or focus or emotional regulation. So if all these things the affect actually the brain. Now, these horrendous experiences affect the brain. Don't you think that now behaviors are actually communicated? Because it is in behavior that trauma is communicated. So when trauma speaks, what actually now happens? Okay, just a little bit of fleshing of the previous slide. V, you can take us to the next slide. So there is aggression and defiance. That is, there's a fight response to feeling unsafe or powerlessness. And there's also withdrawal and isolation. So most people or other children who've gone through traumatic experiences, they tend to use flight as a response to overwhelming environment. There are those who actually go through suffer anxiety, like now the behaviors. Okay, the behavior that comes out clearly is on anxiety, perfectionism, or even hypervigilance, like more of a freeze response to perceived threat. And then lastly, we can talk about the poor concentration, that is a risky behavior, survival strategies, not willful choices. Now, here it's where you get children under trying to cope in using the most unhealthy coping mechanisms, okay, such as getting themselves into drugs and substance abuse, just joining the wrong circle of friends, okay, that would actually make them feel quote unquote safe in the event of any in the event of maybe just a feeling that the environment is not safe. So these behaviors, I don't want us to get them that they are defiant behaviors. No, most of them, the behaviors are technically the coping mechanisms. Okay, these are coping mechanisms. They are survival strategies. Okay, so when of course that the trauma has affected the brain, the system, of course, the nervous system is naturally wired to protect and not to misbehave at all. So, talking about that now, what then can we understand about probably adverse childhood experiences? We have abuse, okay? Um, and when I'm talking about this, it's all about things that have actually caused trauma, okay? So this could be in form of abuse. And in most cases, we've heard of physical abuse. Okay, most of the times, our children suffer because they were physically abused. Okay, by adults or even fellow children. Okay, they were emotionally abused. Emotionally abused meaning the emotions were actually affected in the most negative way. And sexual abuse experienced during childhood. This, I would not assume that all of us know, because sexual abuse, it would be inappropriate. It could be as from inappropriate sexual touches, or even the sexual act itself. So that forms part of abuse. And then when you go to neglect, you understand that physical and emotional absence. I mean, when the child's needs are not actually met, then it is trauma is actually registered in the mind. Okay, household dysfunctionality. Okay, children who have experienced uh, folks or other guardians that are very much abusive, or are into drugs and substance abuse, or are divorced, or there's just not love. There's a lot of trauma that actually accumulates, and this actually takes a toll on them even as they grow up. And the only way that we'll be able to sort out this is by changing the coping mechanisms to them. And then lastly, the long-term impact. These adverse childhood experiences are linked to, they are multifaceted, okay? They're linked to health, social, emotional aspects. But a good thing is that they don't determine our children's destiny. So if they don't determine our children's destiny, it means that our children can actually heal. And now that is where we go to the aspect of neuroplasticity. We can go to the next slide. So our children can actually heal. So what does neuroplasticity entail? The ability of our minds, or rather our nervous system, to definitely rewire itself. Okay, so with the consistent caring relationships and safe environment, children can actually recover from trauma. So healing is not only possible, it's not only possible, but it's the natural direction of growth. And only when the right conditions are present. Okay. Yes. So when our children get to heal, we there's that aspect of resilience that is built in kids. Okay. V, you'll have to go next. So there's that aspect of resilience. So what is resilience? Resilience is the ability of anyone, okay? But now in this context, it's children. The resilience is the ability of children to bounce back. Okay, they get to bounce back no matter what traumatic experiences they have gone through, and they're going to bounce back because safe environments were created for them, so that they were now able to thrive. Okay, they not only bounce back, they bounce back and thrive. Okay, so because resilience, it's not an innate character, it has to be nurtured. Okay, it has to be nurtured. So resilient children learn to get to regulate the emotions and solve their problems, and also end up maintaining healthy relationships and also boundaries. And so, how then can we keep on nurturing, or rather maintaining, their resilience? We have now five protective factors that I got for us. So, first and foremost, parenting knowledge. Get to understand your child's developmental sets. Okay, one thing, as parents, we are supposed to be very, very much compassionate with towards our kids. Okay, of course, compassion cannot come from outside if we cannot have it from inside. If they can't get it from us as parents, then there is no way they're going to get that compassion outside there. They have to learn it from home first. So when your kid tells you that, you know what, Madam so and so touched me inappropriately. Okay, you don't have to go asking why did you have to dress the way you dressed, because that alone made Madam or teacher so and so do what, feel like he or she wanted to touch you in that way. So you get to understand, like, okay, now talk to me. Okay, talk to me. What exactly happened? Okay, have a proper conversation with your kids, and so that kids can be able to open up and talk about their whatever they are going through, or rather they have undergone through. Something else is social connections, building, having like strong community. We as families, we need to be very, very strong. We need to build that community of love and friendship. Okay, and even church, or rather not church, I have said church, but let me talk about spiritual spaces as well. Yeah, it has to feel like a safe community for kids as well, or rather anybody who gets to go through trauma. Okay, yeah. And another one would be concrete support. I mean, children need to be able to easily access the resources, or rather services, the practical ones that actually help them in terms of need. Okay. Then there is the aspect of nurturing and also attachment. That would be consistent, loving relationships actually build a secure foundation for healing. So we need to, first of all, us as parents, we need to have that nurturing trait within us, so that we be able to help our children also experience the same thing. And then lastly, the social and emotional competence. So when children learn to identify feelings, manage emotions, and build actually relationships, they develop their inner strength to overcome adversity and thrive. So how then, as adults, are we becoming healing agents? Basically, the same thing that we have discussed, being present. Okay, how are we being present? In the sense that when they come, we actually actively listen to them instead of just trying to find out what they did wrong. Okay, listening is very, very much, it's a very serious, important skill that we need to exercise. And there's a lot of empathy that needs to be exercised when listening to our kids. And then um, and then another thing would be just being patient. Healing is very non-linear. Okay, and if you're not going to be patient with our kids who've gone through traumatic experiences, it is going to be very difficult for them to actually heal and even bounce back, the whole aspect of resilience. Something else would be creating safety. So how would you then create safety? Understanding boundaries, okay, and helping them also get to know their boundaries, and also create the same boundaries. Because if they don't have a sense of if they don't understand the clarity of boundaries, then their emotional security, or rather emotional boundaries, will be at risk. Okay. And can also be healing agents by just being attuned. Okay, listening without judgment. Okay, validating feelings, normalizing the pain they are going through, telling them it is okay. Well, whatever you're going through, it's very much in order. Okay, and this is probably how I believe we can actually go through this together. Okay, because you have to incorporate their thoughts process, even as you help them cope up. And then lastly, we talk about the model regulation. Basically, as parents, or rather guardians, you're supposed to demonstrate healthy coping strategies and positive emotional expressions in our own behavior. That is why I said that we cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot pour kindness if you don't have kindness within you. You cannot pour compassion if you don't have compassion within you. So you have to have that so that you be able to pour out to kids. So together with all those, we can actually help children heal and heal wholly. Okay, every interaction is an opportunity to build trust and resilience. So you don't need to be a therapist. All you need to be is compassionate. Yes, so start by listening today and react less. Believe in every child's capacity to heal. And that was my time with us. Unless you have questions.
It was a great presentation, and these are her contact details. We can actually take a screenshot and connect with her on LinkedIn, or if you need a therapy session online. She's actually a certified therapist for kids. So thank you so much, Beverly. Thank you for honoring our invitation. I know that the time difference there is quite challenging, but you actually pulled up for us, and I'm so grateful about that. So the floor is open for questions, but before people ask questions, I have a question. Talking about resilience, bringing up resilient children. I really want to ask, bringing up resilient children is quite very good, but I find it very challenging as a parent because I feel like I'm opposing to this child inner self. Like maybe the child wants to be a footballer, and then the child feels like football is the best thing. As a parent, I feel like that's not the best thing for you, like an African parent, obviously. And he wants to be resilient, like learn more and be he wants to continue to be the like the best person in football. But I think that maybe he wants to be I would try to push him towards the doctoring part. Like I want you to learn science, like what parents do, right? How do you think that it will affect the child? Would it affect the child, or like the way our parents were the way we were brought up by our parents, that they're like, you don't tell me what to do, I tell you what to do. Do you think that's a good thing as a parent to do?
That's a good question, and thank you so much